Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show, where this week we are super excited to have head coach Ed Cook of the Greenway Demons on the show. And I've said this before because we had Coach Young on from Bradshaw, who is our not hated because I love Coach Young, but is our rival at Bradshaw Mountain. And I think we're the only show that's kind of had the rival on. And this is actually our first opponent for the 2025 season. So I don't know that any of these other coaching podcasts are doing that as well, but I've always had a ton of respect for Coach Cook. He's done it at multiple places, been a head coach at Goldwater, been at Greenway High School since 2017, had multiple winning seasons, including a region championship and 10-2 campaign in 2018, multiple 9-win years on his docket there at Greenway. And really, one of the things that I would say is he's done it at schools that aren't necessarily, I don't want to say anything bad about them. They're all good schools, but they're not necessarily the destination type schools that are always year in, year out going to be strong no matter what type of school. So I always have great respect for those coaches. And occasionally, if I think I'm getting in better shape and starting to lift, I'll see Coach Cook and realize that I'm not at all. You can't see this on the phone, but Coach is definitely spend some time in the weight room. So anyhow, we're going to talk to him today. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is sponsored by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises, except for the small 3% processing fee. We used School Funder last year for our Liftathon. We were able to raise $12,000 in a very short 2-week period, and we kept almost all of that, like I said, minus that small processing fee. A lot of other companies would take $2,000, maybe even $3,000. You wouldn't give away 20% of the wins your team earns, so why are you giving away 20% of the funds they earn? All that money goes back to your program and stuff you can do to help your team and your kids. So please, contact School Funder and let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you. That's schoolfunder.org. That's SCHOOLFUNDR.org. All right, so excited to get into the topic. And we always start with a little thing. I always like talking to guys that have been in the game and been in the coaching profession a long time. And I like hearing, and for our listeners to hear their football story. So, Coach, tell me a little bit about your football story.
Yeah, of course, man. But thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited about being on, man. I love what you guys are doing. I've watched just about every episode already. So, my football story, man, it's a little bit different. I played a little bit high school here at Greenway, actually, and then played a little college ball at GCC, and then out of nowhere, I was substitute teaching at Central High School, and Coach asked me if I wanted to coach football, and ended up getting a full-time teaching job there in special ed on emergency certification. And I was like, sure, dude, I'll coach receivers. That's about all I knew at the time. And we're a couple games into the season, and during the game, our head coach and defensive coordinator got in a fist fight on the sideline and fired our defensive coordinator. Came to me after the game and said, "You're the new defensive coordinator." I'm like, dude, I don't know anything, man. I have no idea. So I said, but of course, being young and dumb, I said, yeah, I'll do it. No problem. Had no idea what I was getting myself into. And, basically for the next 29 years, I've either been a head coach or a coordinator. Learned on the fly and, just learning from all my mistakes, which there's been plenty. But, it's been great, man. If you would ask me, 30 years ago that I'd still be even in the game of football, I would have said, no way, no possible way. But here I am, man, loving every day.
That's so awesome. I didn't realize that you played at Greenway. That's really cool too.
Yeah.
When you were at other stops, was it in the back of your mind maybe to try to get back to Greenway, or did it just work out that way, or how did that come about?
Yeah, it was never really in the back of my mind. Greenway always holds on to their coaches for a long time. And I was at Mountain Ridge High School coaching there, and the Greenway job was coming open. I got an email from my freshman football, baseball coach, Darryl Barrett, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come back to Greenway and finish your career here?" And I was like, "Huh? Well, maybe I'll throw my hat in the ring." And sure enough, Glendale doesn't hire outside the district very often. They stay in. It's a great district that they promote guys from within. But I was fortunate enough to get the job and have been here for the last 8 years, going on 9.
Super exciting, Coach. Love hearing that. So let me ask you this, Coach, and that's really unique experience because I'll be honest, I was a position coach for 2 to 3 years at the lower levels. Then I got to call the offense, defense at the lower levels, and then I was a varsity position coach and ended up being a varsity coordinator. But I'm trying to think. I had been a varsity coordinator. I had already coached. I think I'd coached 5 or 6 years before I got that opportunity. So you really, and I don't think I was ready even after 5 or 6 years.
Right? Yeah.
To do that. So you really got thrown into the fire
right away.
So that's an interesting dynamic there. How did you go about trying to, obviously you had to trial and error and different things. Did you have a defensive or offensive philosophy at that point, or was it you just build it as you go? Or
absolutely not, man. This was 1996, and I called my high school coaches. What do? I explained the situation. I called Coach Parrish and Greg Parrish and Mike Danilick and help me out. They're like, bring film, we'll sit down with you. And basically I spent all Saturday and Sunday, and we put together the slant 5-3 defense, cover 3. And, they kind of worked me all through it, because as a player, your position, you don't know schemes and all that, especially back then. But, so we started working with it, and, I was fortunate enough to work under some really good head coaches, some good mentors, and, every year just trying to get better, man. Spending time at Applebee's with a few cool drinks and a lot of notepads, and you were trying to get things down. And that's a great thing. Like you just got to evolve and keep evolving. That's kind of how it went. And trying to develop my own philosophy now. Even after all these years, it's still changing.
It is. It's amazing. I've talked to guys before about football. You could live a lot of lifetimes, and there's still always something to learn. There's something I try to. Obviously, there's things you like, and there's things you kind of gravitate towards. But the game is changing, and there's still principles that I think good programs are founded on. But really, there's a ton of opportunities to learn and a ton of different ways to do things that are effective. That's one of the things that I found most fun about doing this is we've had guys that have done all sorts of different stuff. And again, for our defensive coaches, we are going to get here into a few episodes defensively. We've talked primarily offensive football, and we've talked, you name it. We've talked run and shoot. We've talked spread. We've talked wing T. We've talked veer coaches. We've talked air raid. And there's a lot of different ways to do things. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. But first question for you, coaches, do you think it's most important for coaches to coach what they know or to tailor their scheme to their personnel?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think it kind of goes both ways. You look at what you have and what you can and can't do with certain personnel, but it's still going to fit within the realm of my system. When I got to Greenway, we didn't have big linemen. Couple of rules I have is that offensive linemen don't play both ways, right? And so, all right, well, I can't run my even front defense. I don't have those type of kids. So then we started gravitating more towards to an odd front. Now we're odd front, 3 high safety, and get as much skill kids as we can out on the field. And and that's my job, is kind of adapt what I know and build that around them, so it fits our personnel. And offensively the same. We're kind of the same way. There's years I got a really good running back, or quarterback that can run. Yeah, guess what, dude? You're the next running back. We're going to run the quarterback and be effective that way.
When we played you guys in 2018, you had a really dynamic quarterback, and you guys were so dangerous. We played Greenway in a state playoff game. They kind of put it on us a little bit there, and we had a good team at that point. We were playing really well, and it was a tight, contested but state playoff game. But they were really, really difficult to stop. So,
well, thank you. You guys were too. You guys had that big quarterback that was just a man child. I can't remember his name, but that kid was a beast, man. Yeah.
Austin Clark. He could run downhill a little bit. We ran a lot of quarterback
Oh
counters.
yeah. Right.
All that stuff. So that was a fun season. So moving on here, I love one of my favorite topics to talk with coaches is practice planning, because I've talked about this before. I've said it multiple times on the show. I'd have no problem being an assistant for anybody, and I'd have no problem with whatever scheme they necessarily wanted to run. But what I would have an issue with is not being in charge of the practice plan. So walk me through a typical installation plan. Like we're talking more like spring football,
Yeah.
football camp, that type of deal. Walk me through a typical, how you go about installing the system and the offense.
Yeah. So, and I've heard you ask this question and I to other coaches, and, everybody has their way. I went to a system and, I was really struggling at Goldwater, trying to find my identity as a coach. I was kind of copying other things that we did with previous coaches and stuff like that. And I said, this isn't me. And I had to find myself. And I got hooked into Noel Mazzoni, right? And he was at ASU at the time. Then he goes over to UCLA. And probably one of the greatest college coaches to sit and chill with and talk football. I would go over for some spring ball over there. And they'd get done. He'd sit in the office. We'd sit in there with him. We'd talk football for about 2-3 hours. And just awesome, right? And so I kind of take his philosophy that our offense can't be so big. We install everything in 3 days. So we do a 3-day install. So Monday, April 28th, we're installing inside zone, outside, or wide zone, our zone schemes. Tuesday we come out and everything's going to be our counter game. Okay. And then on Thursday, we give Wednesday off. Thursday we'll come out and everything's going to be perimeter run. So now defensively, I just had a meeting with my defensive coaches yesterday. Here's what you're going to see, right? This will be zone day. So all your individual drills and all that should work towards zone type stuff, right? Start talking about who's got the quarterback on zone read and that sort of stuff. And then, Tuesday, your individual drills, hey, we're attacking pullers, we're running with pulling linemen, all that sort of stuff. And then, that Thursday, because it's perimeter run, that's when we're going to start introducing motion. So we'll get together, offensive skill guys, we install our motion, they get their motion checks down and all that, and then everything's coordinated together offensively and defensively as far as our practice stuff goes. So yeah, and then we come back that next Monday, right back to wide zone, inside zone. So we just do it every 3 days and rotate it through. And, obviously every 3 days, the next time it gets a little bit more detailed, we get into a few more formations and stuff like that. But I think it makes no sense for me to have my defensive linemen and linebackers working on trap pulls when we're doing zone, right? So we want to marry all that up. And on Team O and stuff like that, I won't run zone on that day. It'll all be counters and one-man pull, that sort of stuff.
Which I love that, because that's right up my alley. That's very similar to how we do it. We'll do G and stretch on day one with one quick game, one drop back. We'll do power and counter on day 2, and we'll do day 3 a little kind of fold ISO that is a complement to our power game that we like to run a little bit.
Right.
But we're very much in the 3-day install plan, but that is an answer that I've heard so much, because guys are there's a lot of, like I said, I'm not saying the way that I do it or that you do it or anybody's right. It's what's right for you.
Yeah.
But that makes sense to me. Is being able to install that in a short period there. And exactly like you said, try to add a little bit of wrinkles in it. And we do it in a 3-day progression. So 4 is really going to be very similar to practice 1. We might add motion. We might add this. We might add it with the quarterback or what have you.
Right.
But I think that's a really cool way to do it. walk us through a practice week, because in terms of periods, even from, and this is a different way because there's a lot of different ways to do this too. And I'll be honest, I came up with the coach. They were all fantastic coaches. We were in there Saturday, and to be honest, we were there all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes we came back on Sunday. We did that. That was just how you did it. And now
Right.
I do it from home. I let my coaches do it from home. We pop on a Zoom meeting on Saturday, and then we go through our practice script and different things. There's different elements for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But walk us through a typical game week. You just finished up your ball game Friday night. Take a Saturday all the way till the following Friday.
Yeah. So weekends are, it's changed so much with huddle and everything that I give my coaches their time to get their stuff done, and same thing. We'll text, we'll Zoom meet, whatever we have to do. There's times that we will meet in the classroom. A couple of my coaches will come up, we'll meet and start putting together the game plan for the next week. Monday's a big, heavy install day. I don't bring kids in. We send out a lot of film on the weekend. As far as we break down positions, O-line gets their grades and that sort of stuff. And that, kids are pretty good about watching their film and stuff like that. We'll come in, we'll watch what's coming up. We'll have breakdowns of those films for the kids. And then we get out on field, and it's a big install day. I tell them, hey, Monday's going to be long. It is what it is. But we'll get out on the field and go through. We'll first address the issues that we had on Friday night and fix those, go through some things that we needed to fix. And then we'll start doing install walkthroughs as far as what we'll see and stuff like that. I'm not big on scout team stuff, and I'll get into that as we go. But so Monday, a lot of times Monday we're just in helmets. And just get all the install stuff in, how we're going to wrinkle our zone that week, right? We're not going to change our, as Mazzoni would say, don't change the package, change the presentation. So, hey, this is our play, but this is how we're going to do it this week, that sort of stuff. Tuesdays, really, we get into it a little bit on Tuesday, right? It's our counter game and go through those installs, so in the past, we've always been two platoon. So my offense will go do their stuff. My defense will go do their stuff. But this year, I don't think we're going to be that way. So we'll have any time to work on our things. We have our everyday drills. Then we go into small group, then group. Then we're going to flip it into defense. Same thing, EDDs, small group, big group. That's where we'll get on cans, run through our blitz package, coverage stuff with the secondary. And then, we'll work in our special teams of the day. And then in season, I don't do much 7-on-7. To be honest with you, I'm kind of done with that because, the reality is that it's a passing game. Rules are rules, and we should be able to figure it out, get on film, figure out what they do. And we don't need to see it that much. I'd rather spend time doing inside run, blitz pickup, that sort of stuff, and then work one-on-ones, a goal line with our skill kids and stuff like that. One thing we do on Tuesdays, we do a goal line challenge. That's like one of my pet peeves that I really like. We got away from it last year, and I need to get back to it. It's a great drill. You start with ball on the extra point line. Offense tries to score. They score on one play, we move it back to the 5. They score again, we move it back to the 10, and we keep going back. Defense gets a stop, it goes back to the extra point line. So a good competitive period for us. And, we like doing that one on Tuesday. So everything Tuesday is about competition. Wednesday a little bit more polished. We work our perimeter run game. So same setup. Any drills, everyday drills, small group stuff, iron that out. Our team periods are a little bit different, I think, than most people. We'll script out 12 plays offensively. That's it, 12 plays. And we do those for tempo. So first 6 plays on the script are ones against ones, best on best. And we're moving the ball, spotting it, getting on the ball, and going, right? So coaches are on the sideline, signal in plays, other coaches are on, and we got to coach on the fly. We don't have time to stop, run it again, all that sort of stuff. We just don't have time for that, right? Because we want to play up tempo as best we can. So we go 6 plays, moving the ball, stop, 2s go in, they run the next 6 plays. And same thing, up tempo, so we're getting a lot of reps. And then the third 6 plays is the second group. We work back up the script. So my 1s go back in, and they got to run the 6 play, the next 6 plays, and then the 2s go back in and run the final one. So it's just constantly moving, and going. But it's hard. Some coaches don't like coaching on the run. They want to restart everything. I know, man. You got to yell it as we're going, and they got to listen. I want chaos on the field because Friday is chaos anyway. So the more chaotic we can make it in practice, the slower the game is on Friday night. And that's really kind of what we're trying to get after. So we really only do 12 plays a day for team stuff. And we get a lot of reps with our backups and stuff like that and get them rolling. So, but we know what plays, we give them our script. I try to keep our playlist down to 25 going into a game. And hopefully by the second half, I'm only running about 6 or 7 plays and just throw the rest out for the rest of the game and then go. Thursday, it's a good run through day. Obviously hit all our special teams. And then, again, we'll have a script. A lot of times we're not even in helmets and shoulder pads. We're just in, because it's Phoenix, we're out there in just shorts and cleats and getting after it. And then we team meal it up and get ready to go on Friday night.
Coach, that's a really good point that I don't think I've talked about with a lot of coaches is how many plays do you go into a game plan with?
Yeah.
And 25, I like that number. I think your kids are going to be able to execute that. To be honest, I've probably been guilty of getting it a little higher than that in terms of ways we run certain things, but I've seen Noel Mazzoni talk about that, and I think he was in the 30s even at the college level. So
yeah,
I think it's a really interesting point, and that you brought up there is how many plays do you go into a game plan with. The other thing that I would say is this is a sidebar question is what are your overall thoughts summer-wise on 7-on-7? We kind of are reversing course a little bit, but I like hearing coaches on this too.
Well, I don't do much of the tournaments anymore. We used to do quite a few, but now everybody's charging so much money. I don't want to fundraise to do 7-on-7 tournaments, So, I'm one of the weird coaches that I enjoy doing 7-on-7. I love doing 4-ways with guys that I know that we could just stop and coach. When Feckenheyer was over at Cactus and I was at Goldwater, we'd go over there and we'd have a mini practice. Hey, let's run one-on-ones on the goal line. Let's go high red zone, and just take shots and stuff like that. So we really got into coaching with each other and coaching each other's kids and stuff like that. So, but there's a lot of positives I could take away with 7-on-7. But I'm not hanging my hat on that because I want to run the ball. Yeah, but they need it, and for us, the timing with our quarterback on how quickly the ball needs to get out. I bring my timer chair with me and I set it at 2.7. And hey, you got to get that ball out. It's got to be out by 2.7 seconds, man. If it's not, we're out of the pocket and we're running anyway. So, you go to these tournaments and they give you 4 seconds. Well, that's an eternity. I can't ask my kids to cover that long and stuff like that. So I'll just stick with four ways here at the house and go that way.
Also very similar to how we do it. We have teams come up to Prescott and we do the same thing. And I enjoy that way of doing 7-on-7. I'm not knocking the whole tournament scene.
Not at all.
Another thing that's interesting, I think I've probably seen some of the worst injuries in 7-on-7 tournament settings.
Yeah.
That I have almost in pads. Because you get guys cheap shotting, and there's just an element of 7-on-7 that I personally am not a big fan of. I'd much rather if you come up to us and you run a play and we bust that completely and you throw a long touchdown. Hey, coach, can you run that again? And have our defensive guys be able to say, hey, if they do, we should be here and here and
right.
the point of it to me is to get better
Yeah.
in that. And I'm not sure that always happens nowadays. So I don't know if we might be dinosaurs in that regard.
Right. I mean, we were doing a 7-on-7 at O'Connor last year, and I won't mention the team, but the coach had two footballs out, right? And one offense team would be on the ball, set go. He's setting the other ball up, and he had a whole nother group ready to go while my defensive guys were coming back. I'm like, whoa, dude, what are we doing, man? At least give us time to get set up and call a play. I know we're playing on time and all that stuff, but yeah, it gets a little crazy, but it is what it is, man.
That is, I've never heard of that one. That's a new one right there.
Yeah.
I have not done that one. All right, Coach. Well, I've enjoyed the heck out of chatting ball and talking different things, but now we're going to get into some wide zone stuff. So if you can, share your screen, coach us up. I'll ask questions as I have them, but excited to learn about the wide zone, the Greenway Demon way.
Yeah. Well, let me clarify that it's not just me, man. I got to give credit to, I don't know if you've heard of him, Nick Caduti out of Texas, high school coach.
I've seen some of his stuff. I've definitely seen some of his stuff.
Phenomenal. I mean, you go back and you're searching, right? I said I was a no Mazzoni guy, inside zone. And, it got to the point, guys get really good at stopping inside zone. And, I just wanted to find something different. I stumbled across wide zone. Well, what's wide zone? I had no idea. And, I started following Nick Caduti and got in contact with him. Him and I started texting back and forth, and he shared a lot of stuff with me. So, as coaches, we know we steal stuff from other people, but it's not stealing if you give them credit. So I'm giving him all the credit that, this is a lot of his verbiage. I use it. That's one thing I learned from Noah Mazzoni when he was teaching us his offense. He's like, if you're going to run it, you got to call it how I call it, or else we can't talk. And I was like, okay, cool, man, I could do that. And so everything we did was, ASU, UCLA terms, right? And now I kind of do the same thing with Caduti, so we could have this conversation and not be like, well, what the hell are you talking about? Do I need to, can you see this okay?
I see it perfect, Coach.
Okay, I didn't know if I wanted to go large screen. Maybe when I go into plays, I'll go large screen.
Into the plays, a lot of times it's easier if you click if you enlarge the screen when you get into plays. But right now, that's probably perfect like that.
All right, cool. So wide zone, like I said, we were struggling with inside zone, and we were doing too much, a while back. Single pullers, double pullers, counter, and it just, that 3-day install was getting awfully hard. And I just wanted the best bang for the buck. We had too many rules going on and stuff like that. And so, in my search of simplifying everything, which I'm all about, right? We get kids that don't play a whole lot of football growing up. They don't understand concepts and schemes, and, they just want to play ball. Okay, let's make this game a little bit simpler. And you had Bob Young on a while back, and you were talking to him about, hey, you ran Veer for a couple of years, and then you got away from it. And he said, well, you got to be a Veer team to really dive into it. And that's kind of how I feel about wide zone. Like, it's got to be your identity. It's 3rd and 1. This is what I'm running. This is who we are. And I think it allows us to play a lot faster and a little bit more physical because there's not a whole lot of thinking going on. It's very flexible as far as formations, personnel, who you have, who you could run it with, and, developing RPOs that go into it. All your inside zone RPOs are all right there with wide zone. It just takes a little tinkering. There's, clear defined rules as far as the O-line goes and the running back goes. I think you could attack the best defensive player, which is usually not ideal, but, there's a lot of times their over aggressiveness to make a play will take them out of the play. And they're going to win a few times, but, overall, it's pretty good. And you could run strong side and weak side, the open side. You watch, the coach at the LA Rams, I forget his name off the top of my head, right?
McVay.
But I'm sorry?
Sean McVay.
McVay, right? They're a strong side wide zone team. And then you go to Kyle Shanahan up in San Francisco, and they're an open side wide zone team, right? And you could do both, and that's why I love it so much. So basically, our 4 rules that we do: the old lineman's got to define the read for the running back with his head placement, right? And then we got to fight to get vertical and step on D lineman's toes. And I'll clarify the vertical in a minute here because that's kind of misleading. But our first step, we have got to be vertical. We can't bucket step lateral or anything like that, right? Our old lineman can never get beat away from help, right? So they could be really aggressive as long as they don't get beat away from their help. And the O-line is responsible for play side gap and never leave until forced. So these are things that we are trying to get instilled into our kids. I really started getting into this about 3 years ago, and then, got away from it, and now I'm getting back into it. We kind of had an awakening saying, yeah, we're doing too much, and our linemen are thinking too much. So basically, here's a couple looks. I'll blow up the screen a little bit here, maybe.
Well, Nick Caduti, coach, I believe in the study, I think they only have wide zone.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have power or counter, and obviously they've been hugely successful in Texas, which plays some pretty dang good high school football. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I know I've heard him say before, well, we know how to fix it because it's the only thing we do.
It's really the only thing they do. Yeah, it's amazing. And, you watch some of this footage, from Fulsher, and they're T formation running wide zone, but the blocking scheme, it's all about the kids up front. You and I know that. And really that's where it is, We've tinkered with some duo, but, I'm one of those guys that I think duo and inside zone are kind of the same anyways, but it's what it is. So here's kind of a look. This is about the only time you're going to see us really break one because we're kind of slow. But, we come out in a pistol set here. Let me see if I get this rolling again. Dang it. Where's the play button? Yeah, no, it won't play. Hold on.
The scoreboard, coach?
Yeah, I keep clicking on it, but it won't fire up here because I switched the screen layout a little bit.
Go to the smaller screen if that makes it easier.
All right. See, I told you before, like I'm a technology dinosaur.
No worries, coach. You are way ahead of many of our guests because you got it up there pretty quick. If you want to go back to share screen, though, and keep it on the lower screen, because right now I think we're in regular. There we go.
All right. It's just my version. I'm covered up here a little bit, but that's all right. I'll reduce this. There we go. All right. So, yeah, we get a nice pop on this one here.
Absolutely.
Right. So I'll get into more detail, just kind of showing you the idea. The next one's a really good view. I'll skip the tight screen, but we're up in Flagstaff here with down tight end. It's just a good look, right? We could be aggressive and get a good push on guy.
Because he is very definitive with his cut here. You really see him open up. But how's his teaching progression going? Because obviously he has some stuff going because you can see that he stuck his foot in the ground and got vertical when he saw a seam.
Right, coach. It's like you're reading my script here, right? So let me talk about running backs first, right? So running back has 2 reads. He's going to read the defensive end first and then the next down D lineman second. Okay, and he gets 1 cut and then get vertical. So we have him at 7 yards in pistol, 1 by 1 in offset. It's a lot smoother out of pistol, but it works out of the offset. So we teach a running back, you take a rocker step, aim for the down tight end or the ghost tight end. On his 3rd step, he's got to make his decision. So we talked about the old lineman's got to declare his path by head placement. If his head's facing out, I'm going to stick my foot in the ground and I'm going to pull my trigger and get up there on the 5th step. If he somehow turns his man in and his head's facing in, then we'll bounce it. I'll tell you this right now, we are never looking to bounce this play. We are looking to make that cut and get upfield. But it's got to be on the fifth step. And I'll show you clips why here in just a second. So they just got to trust the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cut. Stick your foot in the ground, go get vertical. I tell them A to B, do me. You got to be, on this from A to B. So here's a good look, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cut, and trust the process as it's going to be there. After you make that cut and you get vertical, everything else is on you, man. You could do whatever you want on that, right? So when they don't trust the process, here's one you'll see. 1, 2, 3, he cuts and runs into his lineman, right? Oh, sorry, wrong button. So this is the same play that just the other way that we already hit, but here he's already making his cut. He hadn't pushed enough, making his cut basically on his third step, and he runs right into his lineman. If he would have stayed on his path for that fifth step, we'd be off and running. Thankfully, he just ran into his own guy and was able to bounce out, but it hurts us.
What you're saying is you wanted him to push that thing more towards the outside and then be defended, then stick his foot in the ground and get vertical?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
I just make sure I'm following it.
But on that third step, right, 1, 2, 3, he should be reading this defensive end right, or this offensive tackle right here. His head placement's there. It's pointed out, so he should just stay on this path and hit here. He ends up cutting up on this one, and you can see it. The lane's there. He just missed it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He just missed it right there. But he was able to bounce and then get out on that one. Other times, not so good, right? Here's another good example. Offset. Quarterback opens up for him, so he's got the gate. We got a clearly defined lane out of our tackle. We got a good combination going right here. We're going to slide off really well on this. But he cuts it up right now. But here's our lane. We're going to get a good come off on this tackle right here. Boom. Right? We would have been set up on that one. But
Coach, let me ask you, does the running back change? Does the teaching change from sidecar to pistol?
We don't. I still tell them 5 steps, still rocker step, 5 steps, and make your plan. So it's just working with the quarterback. The quarterback sometimes has to take a little step out to get out of his way and open up this lane for him. But if he would have came and stuck his foot in the ground here, we would have been in great shape. He turns it up early, right? And just, we still got positive yards, but, this is stuff that I like is that we could just be physical. These guys know what they're doing. We're not getting that 8th grade slow dance where they're just belly bopping. And, we're getting a good push on guys and making clear, defined reads for the running back.
Well, they're doing a really good job being aggressive and getting downhill. That's an interesting way there because even years ago, Chip Kelly, for a lot of years, if he was sidecar, it was inside zone. And
yeah.
it was pistol, it was outside zone. So you guys have really found a way to utilize it in both back settings, which I think is a big deal because
it is. Yeah.
Spread teams can get a little bit tendency heavy in terms of how they run their schemes based on their back alignment.
Yeah. And, this year we're going to look at doing a little bit of same side. So put the running back on the same side, jab step in, rocker back out, and run for 5 steps. Sidecar, but same side, wide zone.
That'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting variation of that too, because that would really make it versatile.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously already incredibly versatile just from the few clips you've shown already, but being able to be in sidecar and run zone to that side, something that also could be a cool thing.
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed with doing some stuff where you're faking the tailback cross and running quarterback wide zone? Or
oh yeah, I didn't have my quarterback this past year was not a great runner. It wasn't his forte, but if I would have had Tyler Duncan from a couple of years ago, yeah, we'd run this nonstop with him.
He was tough.
Yeah. So here's a good clip, right? Why you got to stay five steps and stay on your aim point, right? We don't block the nose. How we don't block the nose is beyond me, but he stays on his path, sticks his foot in the ground, he beats that nose, right? I think this is the one with the end zone view. Yeah, my guard here screws it up, right? But he beats him, puts his foot in the ground, go get upfield. Go get what you get then. Just from A to B, do me, man. Give me those 5 steps, rocker step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plant. Right?
That was a really good angle of it there, Coach.
Yeah, and he gets a good job on this backer who thinks he has him. Boom. But we're just pushing bodies out of the way, man. And you know, I was a tight end, you know, so I'm like a dubious fatty, right? And I could never block 100 blocks on guys, right? That was a hard thing for me to do. I just wasn't gifted in that. But you put me on an angle on a guy, and I could do that. And, you know, when Mazzoni talked about this, he's like, I don't want vertical displacement. I want horizontal displacement. I was like, cool, man. Tell me how you do it. And I never got the answer. Kadudi gave me the answer on how to get that movement, right? And when I get into the O-line, I'll talk about it. But, yeah, there's some good clips. Again, watch him cut this one up early. Sticks his foot in the ground, and he runs into guys. Dudes, we're just not blocking, right? But the lane's here, defined, turned. We got a nice open area for him to just get up in there and bang this thing. And he ends up cutting back, and you know we still get positive yards, and that's fine. That's great. We'll play the next play, but I think we could have scored on this one if he stays up in his rules, right?
I think the same thing, Coach. I'm thinking that's a touchdown if he stays on the coaching points there.
Yeah. And you wear kids out a little bit. You know, you keep banging this play, dudes get tired of it. You know, and that kid was a stud. 77 for Peoria was just a load. He's a tough kid. All right, so quarterbacks, right? Heels at 5 yards. They open at 5 or 7, depending on which way you're going. Right? Their big thing is they got to give a good ride and just linger. So I kind of teach them reach back, you know, and then leave that lead hand out there and stare at it just for a split second. And then you got to sell the naked boot. You know, whip your head around and you got to read that defensive end and tell me, dude, you got to tell me if he's not regarding it, we're going to come back and run boot. You know, so here's a good look, right? Linger. Now he's in good position. Left that hand out just long enough. You know, we end up blocking defensive end. We never blocked this guy, but this kid was in an emergency situation. He's a D lineman who had to go play. And then now whip your head around and tell me, is that open? If it is, dude, we're going to run boot. Right? So here's a good end zone look at it. So open at 5 o'clock. Ride, give that look. That's the little linger I talk about. Is linger. That's a Bill Williams term right there. Linger, whip. Okay, we could run boot. Right, different quarterback. Still same thing. Linger, whip the head around. Just sell me boot. Just hold those guys. Hold that defensive end and that linebacker for a split second. Right? I think this kid ends up, that backer just freezes just long enough that he can't get into play, right? Because he's got to regard it. Just a little hesitation. That's fine. Now we're off and running. He's out of play. We don't have to worry about him. So O-line, man, this is really where it comes down to, right? So we talk about 18 to 24 inch splits. I really don't even like 24. 18 inch splits, we're going to get in a little bit tighter. Offensive guard and tackle got to play back as far as possible. I talk about hands on the center shoelaces, and we could get even further back. Because if my guard and tackle are aligned, they're not going to call, illegal formation. They're only looking at the tackles. Are they aligned with the guard, right? So I tell my guard, scoot back, and tackles, you get in line with them, and we're good. So further back possible. Why? Because everybody's running slants and stunts and twists and all this stuff with the odd front now. We get a chance to recognize that, but plus it helps us get vertical on our step. We don't have to take a bucket step, right? So we're aiming our aim point is a little bit easier to get to. So for frontside blocking, right, the goal is to capture the play side defender and define the read for the running back. You've got to give me head placement, right? So the aiming point is going to be the play side nipple of the defender, right? We talked that. I know guys talk about play side digit, play side shoulder, armpit, or whatever. Aim small, miss small, man. You know, hey, we talk about nipples, and the kids know that. All right, I'm going to put my head on his nipple. All right. Footwork, first step downfield at your aiming point. Wherever that shade is going to change your aiming point and your step. If he's a heavy shade on you, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive, right? If he's a little bit wider, yeah, it's going to be out wider, but it's going to change, right? Don't leave your hat behind, right? Too many times guys take steps and their head doesn't come with them. You know, the head's got to come with you. The screws have got to go, man. And the second step's our strike step. We're going to step to the crotch, right? We're going to bring that backside hand and we're going to get into that rib cage, right? And keep your elbow tight to your side. That is our catch hand anyways. If that guy spikes inside, that's what we're going to use to catch him. We really don't use front side hand. And I'll talk about that when we get into the clips of why we don't. So we're really just trying to get head across the bow, get to the play side nipple, strike and grab whatever you can, and then lift him up and run his ass to the sideline. That's really all we're trying to do at that tackle position. And really, you know, it's simple and tackles love it. Like they just get to go off, right? If that guy spikes, he knows he's got help. I just can't get beat to my play side away from help. So now we'll talk about play side, front side blocking. So that's pretty much your tackle, right? So now my guard, right? He's uncovered. He's got the guy on top of the tackle. That defender can only do three things, right? Color away. He goes away, right? We stay on that track. He's stepping to that guy's play side nipple. That's his job anyways. If it's away, I'm still taking 3 steps on that angle before I climb. All right. We're going to make sure and we're going to help, but we're going to stay there for 3 steps. I teach reading feet. Other guys teach knees. You know, read the feet. If they go away, still take your 3 steps, then climb. Right? Color to me, I take over. Right? He's coming to me. That's why I got to step on that angle. And I'm going to fight like hell to get my head to his play side nipple. And hopefully I could get him turned. If not, I knock him on that path anyways. I'm already headed that way. If he's hanging, right? My tackle, he's hanging with that guy. We're going to take 3 steps and we're going to shove him into the C gap and help that tackle out and then climb. Right? So the whole goal is we're going to kick that guy out and then we're going to cut the defense in half. Somewhere, some way, we're going to cut the defense in half. So we'll talk about those clips. Yeah.
Coach, when you're talking about are you talking about he's shoving the defender?
Yeah. Yeah, he could shove his own man too. I don't care. Shove whoever you can and just get movement. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. Hey man, we ain't got time to think, man. We gotta get after it and just get physical and start pushing people. Yeah. So here we get a pretty good read right here. So this next clip's a little bit tighter. So here we go. We're going Carolina odd, right? My tackle. Clearly defined. I don't like his step, right? Because he gets a little vertical. I don't know if I could draw on this. Let me see. Yeah, I could draw on this. So let me just undo that real quick so we understand, right? This guy's coming here, right? If I step flat, we're going to get that type of action. That's not what I want, right? And this is why it's so important that he steps vertical or into him so then we get that horizontal displacement. Right? That collision, naturally, they're going to fall off this way and not back this way. Right? So we're kind of critical with that. So his depth is right and all that, but his step is not good. But can I live with it on a Friday night? Yes. Right? And that's just stuff that we got to keep working on, getting that hat over to the play side nipple and drive him. Okay? So just take a look at that step again out of my play side. Boom. Okay. It's defined though, right? I mean, the cut's defined. Guard center, they got it looks like a 3 technique, right? And We get this kid here. My center's got to work hard now. He steps. Boom, we're engaged, right? So now he's got to fight to take that over, but he doesn't leave until he's forced. Boom, picks right up on that linebacker, right? And problems we've had in the past is that we're trying to 100 block this and really push this guy. And what we end up getting is this guy coming off early, this guy coming off early, and this guy makes the play. And here, it's mandatory. They cannot climb until they get 3 steps up the field or down the field or lateral here, right? So this is their stud. We do a pretty good job on him. My center works him. So that's the shove that we're talking about. Like, you can't reach him, dude, and you can't get him turned, take him. Just take him to the sideline. We cut the defense off on the backside. We cut off that backside technique now, right? This guy doesn't do a great job, but it's placed and it's cut off. And we get, hey, man, you get me 4 yards, I'm happy, right? Because we could stay on schedule with 4 yards a pop.
Absolutely.
Right? So now a little bit different look. Like I said, it's versatile, right? So we now, run we got a key screen set up out here, right? But they're spinning. Look how many guys they take with the motion just because,
4 guys. You didn't have to block.
Right. And now this is actually our tight end in the backfield. But hell, man, anybody could run it. Give me 5 steps, get vertical.
Shoot, he looks like he's running pretty dang well to me.
Yeah, right. You give a kid an opportunity, he's going to go after it, right? So we'll take a look at the O-line. Should get a clear, defined read out of my tackle, get a good combo out of my guard center. Yep, that's defined. I'd rather his hat be in front, but it's defined. This is why I don't like bringing the front arm, right? We bring that front arm, and it turns our shoulders. He recovers quick, but I don't like it being that way. Right? Just use your backside arm, stab that guy, wait until you get taken over. My center's busting his ass right here. He's going to get this guy hooked, and then he could come up square and take that linebacker on the path. See how he comes out with his numbers facing us? Oh, right there. Right? He's turned too much for me. But that's me being nitpicky, yeah? As a coach, that's what we got to do. So, hey, man, fix this. Just stab him. Stab, climb. And then we could get into that guy a little bit quicker. Right? We ran wide zone a lot this game. So now we go a little bit different look. We've been running lead with this back. We don't have to. All right? They're going to overload everything. We ran it with the motion and ran him back. Now we're just going to go straight and run boot back this way. Just open it up. Cool. Peoria, good football team, good athletes every year. Running back does a good job. Wish my quarterback would have carried out the boot a little bit to hold guys. But again, we get clear defined, read out of the tackle. We get a good combo here. See my center working his ass off. Look at him hook him. That's beautiful, man. I mean, that is cutting the defense in half right there. My backside tackle's downfield. He's looking at the wrong guy, but hey, we take him on the path. It's fine.
But everything is very clearly defined and a lot of versatility within it right there, Coach. Being able to, like you said, a lot of times you get in that set and teams are going to the lead back, but being able to hit a really high-quality football play, I think you gained a good chunk on this one to the backside is good stuff.
Yeah. And, we're banging inside, but – that's the thing. You got to tell the running backs, we are not looking to hit this thing outside. Very rarely will it bounce to where we get outside on things. Here's one of the occasions it does, right? And he just got to read it. Now, I don't like the way we blocked this one, right? That's just me, right? Glendale comes out, right? We got the nose. This guy's shaded on our center on the backside here, but we got 3 up on the line. I'd much rather that we go here, 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 and then this guy lead inside. They don't do it that way. Okay. One of my rules is we always block step 2 to zone. We don't block back on things. So they take man on basically. That's fine. And he goes and takes on this kid here. So it works out, but that's something that, okay. he did the right thing and gave my running back a declared way to go. Watch his head. Gets to his outside, turns him in. All right, cool. We're in good shape, man. We're on schedule again. But we get a good push up in front. My center just does a good job. He's a good football player, right? He understands what we're trying to do. Watch him declare the lane. Boom, take over. We come off. Guard doesn't do a great job, but it is what it is. And I kind of poke fun at my tackles. Like, when we run this play, you guys have the most unimportant block on the field, right? I mean, really, anybody can do that. All you got to do, get your head across and take that guy for popcorn on the sideline, right? This was 3 years ago. We're playing Thunderbird, and when we first started diving into this, and I just love this play, right? Because you could be versatile with how you block this. So I don't know why he taps him to tell this. Well, because he was my left tackle's in on an emergency. So we change it up. Now my left tackle's going out here to block this kid. Now he's the clear defined read. This kid goes down for some reason he shouldn't. He should just be still stepping to the zone and climbing here. And if he would have, we probably would have popped this one. But watch how a simple change, right? We rock this defensive end. And he comes up taps just to help him out. Clearly defined. And then my running back's able to get physical on people, right? If this kid would have just stepped to the zone, right, and then climbed, we could have gotten to that other backer or safety there. But, we do a lot with the H-back, right? We will bring them in motion. If we're running wide zone here, right, we'll trap the nose so my center could get off free, right? We just call it, like Carolina even nose, right? We'll wham the defensive end. I want to get into like momentum blocks, right, where we bring them and say, we're running Carolina even and bring him and wham this cat and give him the free release, just momentum blocks where we're kind of running behind it. We haven't gotten that good at it yet that we could do that, but this is just a good look about how you could just tinker with the schemes a whole lot, and it's just a tag.
I love that wrinkle, Coach, and the momentum stuff. I've seen Dan Casey throw that out a few times, and I don't know it well enough to implement it, but it sure looks good.
Yeah. It is. It's just different. So now, go back to this year, go back into a little lead, But again, my tackle, simple, easy block. Boom. That's it. That guy's satisfied. What are defensive ends taught? Hey, he tries to reach you, stay outside. Okay, you're making my block easier, right? Let's check out my inside guys. Inside guys are awesome here. This sophomore starting his first game, right? Not great. Not great at all, but we had to pull him up because of injuries. And, my lead back does the right thing. Hey, give him a little hand, a little chip, and turn the shoulder. Go let our running back do things.
Coach, if there's 3 words that I've really seen emphasized so much, it's clearly defined reads.
Yeah.
Because you really can see in all the cases, you guys have coached them up on making that read definitive for the running back.
Yeah, and be honest, Coach, right? And maybe I'm wrong, right? Some O-line gurus are going to criticize me for this and everything, but this is our same scheme for inside zone, right? Give us clearly defined. Now it changes a little bit who we're defining, but we're going to teach the running back his path differently, right? So now he's going to attack the lowest shade and that sort of stuff. But for my old lineman, hey, all you guys are thinking of wide zone rules, right? Wide zone rules. We run counter. I'll tell the 2, hey, your pull kick, your pull turn up. Everybody else, your wide zone rules, just opposite call, right? So, their concept and their steps and all that stuff. I'm aiming place that nipple and I'm driving him down. Still the same. We run outside perimeter run, still the same. I tell these skill guys, you get that term skill for a reason. Make a read and make a cut. And it kind of works out. And I just want to be simplistic with my old linemen, because the less they think, the faster they're going to play. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. Look at that. Look at him just mauling that kid, right? I mean, for me,
That's good stuff.
yeah, I mean, he had a field day. Now, here, this is a good look. Why I don't like bringing the front arm. Watch 72. He's my guard here, right? He should just stab with his inside arm on this kid and let the center take over. He brings the outside arm and ends up really turning, and this backer comes over and makes the play, and that's what we don't want. He gets too much into that. He's beat right now. This kid's got a free path. If he would have just stabbed with the inside arm, stay until he gets pushed off. Look, my center does a great job, man. That's defined. Now come up and reel this kid. But because he brought that front side arm, right, we can't get off.
Coach, that's similar to how we teach it, and that's for some reason that's really difficult for kids.
It is, man. It really is.
Arm and be in position to climb that. I don't know what it is exactly, but that is something that we've struggled with as well.
Yeah. And, that kid has been in the program a little bit, and that's how we were teaching, hey, get the 100 block. But now that we're changing kind of the scheme on how we do it, my job to find a better way to teach it, right? So we're doing a lot of stuff on hand shields, no front arm. Can't bring the front arm, and that sort of stuff. So we do a lot of one arm blocking, stab and expand, man. Here we go out of a squeeze set, man. I love squeeze sets, right? Because, defensively, they got to prepare. They got to defend extra gaps and all that stuff. These guys don't like being down in the box. We tell our kids we don't block corners, right? They're paid to cover. They're not paid to tackle. So we're going to release guys and go upfield. They still screw it up, but it is what it is. But it's a nice look out of squeeze sets because we set other things up with our RPO
your
game.
Naked off of that's going to be nasty. I'm sure there's a naked off of that.
Yeah. So here again, right? We talk about can't get a beat away from help. Okay, so we got this taken care of, right? Don't care about him. Don't read force players. We'll take care of the force player. My guard here has got to take a good step and get to his play side nipple. He doesn't. He steps with the wrong foot, and he just goes straight on, head on. That's 100 block in my world. I don't want 100 block. Get your head across. But because he does that, he gets beat, and that's against their stud. Well, he's a stud for a reason, and if you get your head across his front, he's going to go and dip into that backside gap where my center is. He doesn't, boom, done. And we get beat. It happens, and so we get on huddle and fix it. Next series, dude, you can't do that, right? Here's a nice little wrinkle. We go 3 backs in the backfield, right? Some Larry Feckenheier stuff. Squeeze set with our receivers brought down. Bring everybody in the box, and we're still going to run it. Now I got 2 leads going. They all define their read. And it's just good old-fashioned power football, right? I grew up in wing T, coaching wing T. To me, brother, this is just buck sweep. I'm teaching that running back, you're going to run across just like we did. You're going to run to where the tight end is, stick your foot in the ground, turn upfield. You got 3 releases, right? The same theory, right? I know wing T guys will be like, no, it's not. But, man, when you break it down, it's the same theory. Well, I'm teaching wing T type stuff, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stick your foot in the ground, get upfield. Now go do you. Right?
It's like how aggressive your offensive lineman is able to be. That's really important for kids.
Because they're not thinking, Coach. I tell you what, man, my tackles loved it. They're like, Coach, this is so much fun, man. They're grinning from ear to ear. This is fun. I know what I'm doing every play. I don't have to think. Yeah, that's the genius of it. My center he's filthy. I wish that kid was taller. The only thing, so here we go. We'll get into a few examples of some RPOs, some old day stuff. When we kind of dove into this, I'll show you a couple boots, right? Man, this is game 1 when we started doing this. We're playing Sunny Slope. By the way, we have no business playing Sunny Slope, but we're playing them. or in a tight end wing set. But this is my favorite RPO out of this. We go, vertical slant route. They already have their backer in. This is a guy we want to read anyways. He's not making a play on a slant. He's got to respect the vertical, So we're going to throw the slant because he's got to come in. There it is. It's come right at him. Bang it. Right? Even my non-quarterback guys can throw that.
And the angle from the tailback's a little bit different out of that pistol look with outside zone there with it.
Yeah. He was this is when he was a sophomore, first game. So, we all had the tight butt on this one, playing Sunny Slope. They were pretty damn good. That's when that kid from that went to Oregon was their quarterback.
They
were loaded.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And they do a good job. They're a good aggressive defense. And, I think I'm starting like 8 sophomores on offense this year. But hey, we were able to do some nice things. I mean, I'll take that every day.
Absolutely.
Right? Just another look at the same thing. You're not going to adjust. We're going to keep doing it. And go let athletes be athletes. Let's see, what do we got here? Carolina even, right? Run 95, what we call 95, stick bubble, and go. So this guy's just going to run the stick. We're reading right here, reading what these guys do. We're a little offset on this. Boom, just put it on them, go get positive yards.
Love it, Coach.
Let's see. Oh, this one. Man, we screwed this play up, right? This is a fun play. We call this Army, and it's just a little screen. This kid goes in motion first, and he's trying to fake everything. He should just be going straight across hard, right? Here's what we read. And, people are like, wait, coach just said you're playing them game one, and you're telling them everything. Yeah, I don't care. You guys got to stop it and all that stuff. But I love sharing information, right? So my quarterback's on a read, right? We're running wide zone here. Okay? So he takes a quick glance over here. We tell him there's a vector at 8 yards. Count how many defensive guys are outside the vector and below it, right? So really there's only one. This guy's in the box. I'm drawing a little crooked. There's only one. We're bringing 2 with the motion, and then 3, he's going to come after the snap and run a speed out. Right? I mean, this should be money. We sell this. He's run inside zone here. My quarterback knows I'm just going to turn, quick flash fake, snap, throw the speed out to the numbers. Okay? We kind of screwed up because, we're young and a bunch of sophomores, but the read is right. But that kid going in first motion kind of screwed it up. Right? He's kind of faking and bubbles, and so they jet with it. But that's the concept. Right? And then we get lucky and break one. But
and Coach, I think a lot of that's overrated. As you know from seeing us on film, you're going to see a lot of gap scheme week 1, or week 12. It doesn't really matter. So I think sometimes that's overrated with coaches. I think that the devil is in the details, so to speak.
Right. And we block it, we run it right. It's a little bit cleaner, but I'll take that result there. We go Army this way to the play side, right? So now we're bringing a motion. He's going to block. Again, the vector's there, right? We got 2 guys. I've got 1 guy to block, this kid here, bringing another guy to block. He's coming in motion. So I have 3 on 2. Now his job is he's going to take 1 step and then crawfish out of here, and we're just going to flip it to him, right? He's just going to backpedal on out. Right? And it's not clean, but it's just another added variation. You getting wide zone here. All of a sudden, the quarterback sticks his foot in the ground and flips it backwards, right? So you end up holding guys. Boom, flip. Boom, block. Terrible block. But it's there, right? It's there. And it's like, oh, man, we're close, brother. Just hold that block a little bit more. We got it. Yeah. But I'll take 4 yards, dude. Yeah, cool.
What's wrong with 4 yards? You're on schedule.
Yeah.
On schedule there, no question.
So again, that was Army. Let me see what we got next here. Here we go. A little of our boot action out of this, right? Here we are, a pistol. We call it Playboy. Playboy odd. We boot out. I mean, you're
Such a
running.
natural compliment to the wide zone too.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And you could do it so many ways. Here we're in a down tight end, what we call doubles, right? Tight end just kind of leaks out a little bit, but they see that wide zone enough. These guys start flying, right? These backers have no idea, right? I mean, they are gone. Okay, drop it off. We'll take the easy yards. Come back, run the same thing to the wide side of the field. We're able to leak that guy across on the over route. Again, now we do the lead stuff. We have that back. He's either leading, he's going back.
Nice job slipping out there.
Yeah.
Running back too.
Yeah, that was smooth. That was smooth. I mean, it's just, however you want to run the boot. I mean, our crosser's open. He's running the cross, the deep over. Boom, open.
And a little eye candy with it.
Yeah, this is my fun stuff, man. Right? Guys love doing this stuff. You got to keep these guys engaged and do some stuff. So we go ghost motion. We run the inside or the wide zone here, and what we tell our quarterbacks: if they don't spin, we're throwing this thing out here, right? So they really don't spin with it hard. Flip it out. Go let athletes be athletes, man. Yeah.
For all the information you shared tonight. Really, one of my favorite. We've done 20 plus of these now. This has been one of my favorite times getting to go through this. Really, some great coaching points with the wide zone. Some stuff that I will take, and all you guys listening, I hope you can take some of this stuff in here with wide zone, because there was some really good stuff. Very specific, like I've talked about a lot. So much of everything is in the details, and everything that Coach talked about was very detail oriented with all of it. We saw all kinds of really cool wrinkles with it. So again, Coach, I just want to say thank you so much, and we will definitely plan on having you on again, and we'll talk some more ball. But I appreciate everything that you've done, and the presentation you put together was all excellent stuff. And I hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next time on another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show.